woo-woo way, which we like to say with great respect, looking at how we set our intention for the day and how we decide, how we're going to show up and how we're going to grow our business.
Fantastic. So Jenni, talk with me about, well, first of all, how's your business week been? I know it's interesting times right now in Australia. You guys are out of lockdown. We're right in the thick of lockdown. So has it been a good business week, and how have your intentions been going?
I have had a really good business week, actually. So this week I've had a whole conversation. I think you went through this 6 months ago with looking at your business and looking at your programs and how you can better serve people. And actually that's been our conversation with my team this week, is looking at how we can, have our programs show up and in a way that's really going to create the value that we want. So that from that perspective, it's been amazing. The small business grants, and I know you've got an amazing client who's also benefited from the small business grant that got released or got actually awarded this week, or advised this week. So that's really exciting. So I get to work with a number of really amazing businesses to help them grow their businesses. So it's been a really good week. And how about you? What's your week been like?
I've had a huge week. We did a one-day masterclass on chatbot and the new Instagram chatbot, which was really exciting, setting all that up. So that was fun with our clients. And I've also taught a 4-session course. So this week was the last week of it on Canva.
Amazing.
And it was cool because we had new beginners in there. We had people that had been using it for years and just going through all the new stuff. And, and you know what? Every day I'm finding new stuff coming out on it. Like, whoa, you're an amazing company, Canva. Good on you.
Well, I know. I just noticed it's funny. All of a sudden, nobody, Canva was a quiet achiever, kind of just doing their thing. And there's their sister company, or not sister company, their kind of competitor, I guess, Designer, which is also an Australian-based company who do a very similar thing to Canva. And I started spending a lot of my time on Designer as a different version, which I really loved. And there's benefits and pros and cons to both. But what I've noticed recently is Canva has ramped up their branding and advertising, and I'm seeing them everywhere, on bus stops, on Facebook ads, on television ads, on Foxtel, like how they've really boosted their marketing and boosted their brand in the last 6 weeks has been really interesting to watch, because they've been around for a while.
Yeah, right. And so from my perspective, I'm not seeing any of that. I don't see their advertising anywhere, to be honest. Wow. But from my perspective as a graphic designer, it was something I absolutely hated. And so it's been really great to have embraced it a few years ago and gone, well, so still there's absolutely things you cannot do that you need to be able to do as a designer. But that's not the main part of my business. It's really interesting seeing what they're doing and seeing how other graphic designers are reacting to it, that coming from a place of abundance or a place of lack. Yeah. And those that feel like Canva has killed their business just haven't found new ways to embrace it. Like creating templates for people to buy to use on Canva and that kind of stuff. There's so many opportunities out there. But so, yeah, it's been very, very interesting. So that was a fun finish off of a big workshop that I did, and I really enjoyed it.
I mean, yeah. We and I talk a lot about the fact that that's the part of our business that we absolutely love, isn't it? That sharing knowledge and going deep dive into kind of getting people to show them how to do it, how to build their own business and actually build those skills themselves so they feel confident and comfortable to do them if they want to. Because, of course, just because we teach people the skills and teach people how to do it doesn't mean that they have to do it. In business, you can choose to just have the knowledge and learn the knowledge and then say, you know what, I actually don't want to do that. I'm actually going to hire a Kylie or hire a Jenni to come and help me with that piece of my business, because it's not, my time is not best served doing that.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I totally believe learn how to do it, find out why you need to do it, and then outsource it where you need. So, for example, look at bookkeeping. Yes, I learned what I need to learn with Xero, but then I have a bookkeeper and accountant because I don't want to use up my time in the things that aren't going to serve me best. And, yeah, so that's a really important one, recognizing that, isn't it? And
100%. But so this is an interesting, and it's all that conversation around intention. I mean, it doesn't sound like we're talking about intention, but in actual fact, we are, because the whole idea of intention is having a really deliberate purpose and outcome for what you do and how you show up. So intention can be so many different things. It could literally be, what is my intention for my day? How do I want to show up today? What is my attitude, my state of mind, my being on that day? But it's also, how do I show up for a client call? What do I want to get out of this client call? What's my intention or my purpose for having this conversation with them? Right down to, why am I writing this course? So your intention, how you show up, and the choice that you're making when you deliver those things really impacts the outcome. And I think a lot of people forget that when you start with the wrong intention, the outcomes that you get at the end suddenly don't become, unaligned, and you wonder why they don't work. And often it's because you go in thinking you want one thing, but you do something quite differently. And then you are misaligned, and you misalign with your purpose or whatever you want to call it. And I find that really interesting. And I've been talking to a lot of people this week and the last 3 weeks actually about this, because they've said, I'm writing this email, or I'm having this conversation with a sales conversation with a client, and they're just not, not getting it, or it's not converting. And when I sat down and said to them, well, what are you sharing with them? It's all about them. It's all about, I want to show up and say how amazing I am and tell them why they should come and work with me and how awesome it is. And I'm like, well, that's the problem. Because if you think about what a sales call, what an email, it's actually about, what do I want my person who's reading this or I'm engaging with to feel, think, do? What's the intention? What is the outcome that I want for them? Because then that changes the language. It changes the way that I approach the conversation, and it changes the whole process. And I think we often forget that there is a connection between why we do things and what we're supposed to do and the outcome that we want to get.
Absolutely. And I think also, even when it comes to a product-based something, if you see posts that's all about this product is the best, this product is the best, as opposed to this is how this product can help you, it's a completely different story, isn't it?
Yeah, it's that kind of, telling somebody versus showing them, or giving them lots of information and then going, well, that's great. I have, an encyclopedia of information, but so what? Just because you know all the information doesn't mean you know how to use the information. And I know you and I have come across coaches in our time, and we've talked about this, who have all the knowledge. They know everything. They have the answer to all the questions, but they don't have the practical ability to actually share that and empower that. And having all the knowledge doesn't actually make you necessarily a great coach or a great teacher. It's how do you actually translate that so the people you're talking to can actually take that on and embed that and make it their knowledge and their wisdom, and not just be borrowing somebody else's.
It's so true. And I think it also comes into the way people present. So whether you're on the stage presenting, whether you're on a webinar presenting, whatever it is, some people either A, shouldn't do it, or need to B, learn how to do it better. Yes, my goodness. I've been in some amazing things that I've thought were going to be amazing. I'm going to get incredible knowledge, etc. But within an hour, I'm starting to yawn. Yeah. I'm not getting the information. And it's not that they're not full of incredible ideas. It's the delivery of it that's just not coming through.
And as a coach, and I know, and I've had the privilege of training a lot of people in a number of different roles and environments, from martial arts to business to, a whole lot of things. And one of the biggest things that I've learned through that experience is me knowing what I want to get out of the conversation or out of the interaction. And so that's essentially intention. We don't talk about it in the term intention because people see that as a bit of a, it's like affirmation. And affirmation is just me is what we used to call, a pump up. It's, I think Tony Robbins uses it, it's called I think he calls it a primer. So an affirmation is just like having a primer that you use every day. So you prime your attitude and your belief or your state for that day, and then you actually kind of fulfill that. But when we have this conversation to say, well, what are we trying to get out of this arrangement? What is the purpose of this? Is it about me? Is it about sharing knowledge? Is it about actually getting my client to, or my potential client or partner, to do something or feel something or change their state? It has to impact. I have to change the way that I do the delivery. I have to actually consider, well, what's the impact of the words I'm saying, and whether it be, how I show up online on my website. And I had this conversation yesterday with another coach around, what do I want to get out of a website? What makes an ideal website? And I said to them, a conversation. When I go to a website, I want to feel like I'm actually invited into a conversation. And when you go to a website that has somebody that's all very like, I'm amazing, I know all the information, it actually makes me think, well, I don't know if that's for me. I'm just getting lots of information, but I don't feel there's a conversation happening. And so that's because when we consider the outcome, it changes the way we deliver the work.
I love that. Consider the outcome. It changes the way we deliver. That's a really, really good one, Jenni. I'm going to ponder that one. I like that's going to be another quote from you.
So what do you think about intention, and how do you kind of, when we talk about intention, what comes to mind for you, Kylie?
Jenni, I've got a lot of thoughts around it. I've had some interesting weeks of late where I've thought about it a lot. And I often think, I think, I'll keep using the word think. I'm clearly doing a lot of thinking. But what's happening for a lot, I think, oh God, I'm going to just chop my tongue off every time I say think.
You're curious to learn about.
Yes, is that people don't necessarily have the best intention behind something, but they don't even know that that's what's going on.
Yes.
So I'm noticing when, let's bring it again back down to the sales thing, whether it's product based, whether it's service based, whatever. If you're so focused on, I've got to get that sale, so it's like a desperation. It's not coming from a beautiful place of giving. It's coming from, I'm in a really stressed state. I need to make some money, or I need to grow, or whatever it is. I need money, and you'll do anything that you can to do it. But then it takes away the authenticity. It takes away the way that you approach it, so that you're putting it out there gently, putting your message out there gently, putting it, doing, as I said before, sharing how you can help rather than what you actually do.
Yeah. And I think that's such a good point, though. It's so important, particularly in sales, isn't it? I mean, when we decide as a business owner that I want to show up in a particular way, if you have, and we all have ups and downs, that's the part of business. We're on a roller coaster. We're never just kind of coasting on a nice flat road. We're always on a roller coaster of some version, because there's always ups and downs, no matter how big or high, or how big or low they might get. But we have to say, okay, well, what are we here to do? Like, if my intention is to grow my business and I want to grow it and align with my values, I need to make sure that everything I do fits that purpose and that intention and that kind of value set. But if it does become about, I'm desperate now because I'm at a low and I actually just want to take all the clients, and it's about taking and not giving, it's about getting and not sharing, then you show up and you start to behave, and the language that you produce does become uncomfortable, and people notice that. Clients notice that. You've seen that. I've seen that recently in a number of very big commercials and big companies who are literally borrowing the advertising campaigns of other brands. But then you think, oh, is that okay? It just seems a little bit funny. It seems a little bit odd. But then you think about the purpose behind that. And the reason, one thing I look at is Pizza Hut. In the day when Pizza Hut was around and they were everywhere and they actually had physical stores, they used to do their development about where they were going to actually have a Pizza Hut store by finding out where McDonald's was putting their store. So back in the day, if you remember, like we're talking 15, 20 years ago, every time you saw a McDonald's, there would have been a Pizza Hut within 1 to 2 blocks of the location of that Pizza Hut, because they recognized that McDonald's did all the right demographic, all the right analysis, all the right research to identify where families were and where their demographic was. And in those days, Pizza Hut was actually a version of the family restaurant that McDonald's was trying to be. So instead of actually going out and doing that all themselves and coming up with the same idea, they just went, well, we know that we can actually be in the same place as McDonald's, but we have slightly different markets. One is that fast food drive-through, I just want to get my food and go, versus we're having a night out with the family where you go to Pizza Hut and you used to have the all-you-can-eat salad bar, and it became an experience. So they actually were using their intention was to use the same information because they knew they could share the market. They knew they could actually work together. And it wasn't until we started realizing that, the family restaurant idea has kind of changed quite a lot, and people are happy to do takeaway. And with Uber, people don't go out for pizza, and particularly when you can buy pizza for so crazy prices these days, that Pizza Hut model didn't work anymore because they stuck with that single intention. And it's about changing the way we do things. And if you show up authentically and you show up in the way that, hang on, what am I trying to do for my business? Whether it's find clients, support other people's clients, or whatever it might be, you need to be clear about what that intention is.
Yeah, I agree, Jenni. And I also think comes to product base. So with your earrings that you've just bought, you've immediately said not just the name of the business and where you got them from, but also the whole process around where that came from. So that is just showing great intentions. It's intentions to share, it's intentions to give, it's intentions to help, it's intentions to all kinds of things, as opposed to keep something for yourself, copy something. In fact, years and years ago, I bought a business. It was a little market-based business, and there were a couple of products. And I thought they were great. The woman had invented them. They were fantastic. I'd used them myself when my daughter was a baby. And then I bought that business and knew that I could really grow it into something, which I did. It was very exciting. But many people, particularly my financial advisor and my accountant, both said to me, you're crazy to buy that business. Buy the product, pull it apart, and then just remake it yourself and call it something new. All you got to do is change 10% of it, and it's a completely new product. And I just felt sick about that. I was like, do people really do that? Of course they do, don't they? That's how the world goes. But would I feel okay doing that? Would I feel okay making money, growing a business from something that was somebody else's idea? No, I don't think I would. It would be terrible. And so instead, I paid the money. I said, thank you so much for building and inventing this amazing thing. Now, whoa, here I go with it. And 9 years later, I had, sold it and had created something like 160 different products from the first few that I'd bought. But I really appreciated what she'd done on the ground level. And so my intention was to honor her, acknowledge her, and then move it. I very quickly changed the name, changed the branding, changed the everything, but that core product stayed the same. And I was super grateful for that. So intention there even is how do you show up in terms of your own, what's the word, Jenni? Your values, I think.
Yeah. I think it is values. And it's an interesting conversation because I used to work with, when I was working in corporate world, and even when I was back doing, as a sales director, a sales manager, we're always borrowing ideas and sharing ideas. And when you have a community of practice, there's always ideas that you share because there's really no new idea in the world. It's just the way that we deliver it that becomes unique, or our signature way of, delivering information or pulling information together. And so there's that kind of, I think this is where this is where affiliate programs came in and referral programs first started to be developed, because it's honoring where you get the information from. It's paying credit and respect to say, look, you've trained me, you've taught me, I've got so much amazing information from you. I need to honor you by giving you a referral fee or an affiliate fee or something to actually pay respect to the fact that this information wasn't mine to start with. I mean, in academic worlds, we do that through referencing and things like that. We're not just reinventing the wheel or taking other people's work and changing the words to make it our own. We're actually crediting to say that this is formed from somebody else's idea. And I think that's a really important part, particularly in the business world and particularly in a service environment like us. I mean, you do digital marketing. I'm a business coach and I also do some content work. You do digital marketing, but as well, you also do social media and that content piece as well. But our approach to content is a little bit different. The way that I language with my clients is different. And we actually honor the fact that we do that in a different way because we've actually had different experiences to create that idea. Mine's come from that kind of policy writing, request for tender, grant writing versus the marketing aspect of content writing. So those two things provide us an opportunity to share and talk about ideas, but we're not stealing or taking each other's ideas because our intention is about sharing and connecting, not about either or. And I think that's when you see the communities grow and the way that I guess the world, particularly in a business with digital marketing and with online marketing being so important to business, it's really easy to start to end up copying without even realizing that you're doing it because you think you kind of assimilated that information. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think it's I've always thought of it like a racehorse, that you just need to put those blinkers on and run your own race, because there's always, like, even in that product-based business that I had, people copied me. It was awful to see it happening. And I was like, no, you know what though? I'm just going to run my race, keep my blinkers facing forward, and off I go. And really important to come up with, is your brand, then re-look at yourself. Is your branding on point? Does it exactly reflect who you are? I've just gone through an overhaul with branding with our women's group, Positive Passionate Women in Business.
I love the new little logos. So pretty.
For no reason other than it just felt like the right time. So looked at it, how did it feel, et cetera, give it an overhaul, and off we go. And at the same time, introduce something new into the mix, and off we go. Hello Media has been going through a bit of the same thing, but over about 2 years. That had a bit of a evolve, et cetera, which has been exciting. And because of growing, we need to keep changing to grow with that. But I think what the most important thing is always remembering, staying in my lane, staying focused, not looking at what's going on out there, and keeping true to the values at the core of what I do.
And I think that's what intention's about. I mean, that's literally what, to me, or what I feel, I believe intention is about. It's about saying, what am I here to do? What is the purpose of this action or this activity that I'm doing, whether it's in a moment, across a day, across my year, in my life or my business. And I think that is how intention drives us. And we use the word it's used, as I said, it's used in a very kind of airy fairy way, but it has really strong power and connection to the actual outcomes that we have and the success that we have in doing those actions. Because as a business, I know my intention in my business is to, yes, I want to grow. I have a business. It's my revenue. It's what pays me my salary. I have to actually make sure it works. Like there's a need requirement there. But the way that I choose to do that is by doing high touch programs. And you and I talk about that all the time, saying, you know, should I still be doing all this kind of one-on-one and high touch coaching, or do I move to the digital, you know, online course that's arm's length, that, you know, just delivers information and there isn't that connection? But for me, the intention is about creating the best outcome. And I know, and you know from the work you do, that one-on-one high touch coaching is going to get probably a far greater outcome in a shorter period of time versus that arm's length program or less touch, which actually gives you a good outcome, but over time, over a longer period of time. So we have to set that intention, because it directs how we work, how we show up, what programs we develop, what price. Is my intention to set my business up as a, you know, as a luxury item, or whether it's a product or as a, you know, a high value service, then my pricing is going to actually reflect that. So my intention for my business is reflected in not only what I do or how I do it, but things like pricing, the types of products we offer, the branding that we choose. And they're all connected to that first initial intention. And a lot of people don't, and I call that clarity. I talk getting clarity around what you're doing, having a very clear message and idea of what that looks like, enables you and empowers you to then actually grow from that. When you don't have that first conversation, you see a lot of businesses, you know, flipping and flopping, and I might be this and I might be that, and I'll do this, because they haven't been clear on their true intentions.
We've talked a lot behind the scenes, you and I, about that flipping and flopping. And I just love that topic, because, and I love the words flipping and flopping, because for me, I feel like you either can evolve with your business, or you can flop around and you can just always flounder. Whereas when you evolve, it's like you're evolving because you're seeing a need, you're seeing the business is growing, you're seeing, you might just want to start moving in a different direction. And so you're evolving this whole thing. Same, whether that's, you know, the way your business is going to operate, or whether it's just your branding or whatever it is, evolving something is a really beautiful organic way to do it. Flippity floppity, on the other hand, is quite amusing to watch.
Yeah, and they don't have, and it's you know, you and I have this all the time, because we're like, you know, 1 minute I'm going to do this thing, and the next minute I'm going to do that thing, and all I want to do is grab hold of them and say, let's just take 5 minutes to breathe and decide what you're trying to do. Have that conversation very first. You know, that's what intention is. Anything. What are you here for? What are you showing up for today? It's like, you know, when you go to a restaurant and go, what food am I going to have? And you look at the menu and there's 85 things on the menu. And 1 minute, by the time, you know, the time you sit down to the time the waiter's had, you've chosen everything on the menu to eat for that night. And then you end up choosing the garden salad because it's like too much. And you're like, I don't know what I want. Because you didn't actually take just that 2 seconds to reflect and go, what do I feel like eating? Do I want something light or heavy? And having those clarity and curiosity questions up front. And I think part of intention is we think we have to have big intentions. We think they need to be big and bold, and that kind of big, hairy, audacious goal kind of idea of this has to be like it's going to change the world. But to change the world, you need to do very small steps. So every one of those small steps that you take, and the intention in each of those small steps, actually enables you or lets you know whether or not you will, in fact, reach your goal.
Absolutely. And keeping your core values right there with you the whole way along. Make sure that as you evolve, you're doing it in the right way that's right for you. Jenni, I was just thinking when you were talking that, for me, that pivotal moment from, I don't think I was always necessarily flip-flopping around, but, you know, my growth was quick. And so needing to keep up with it and feeling like I'm on a treadmill and off I go and da-da-da. And making sure I was always kept coming back to, am I doing it the most efficient way possible? Then when I went to your 3-day immersion, that completely peeled it back, sat there with it, got the clarity that I really needed to, even though I still completely went on my merry way on the journey I'd planned on, I just had so much more clarity. And when you use the ladder analogy, that really helped me with those steps on the rung along that way, which was just brilliant. And I still use it to this day.
It is one of my favorite things, isn't it? Because it's about saying, what are the steps that we're taking to reach the top? We don't often think about that. And again, it comes back to, and I know I'm laboring the point, but I think it's so important today to talk about it, that when we're trying to achieve the end, there's no point in just looking at the end pace, because our brain doesn't understand. We've never done it before and it doesn't know what to do. So we actually have to really think about and be curious and wonder about what are those steps that we need to take. So we're telling our brain what we're going to do, and that actually sets our path and it sets us our very clear path that we're going to follow. And that's what intention does. By coming in saying, well, I know that I'm trying to achieve a business that does these 5 things. Is my business going to achieve these 5 things? And every time I do something, reminding yourself and wondering, does my business still achieving these 5 things? And if there's not, it's only 3 of them. Why aren't we doing those other 2? Are they no longer important? And if they're not important, then why were they there in the first place? And having that conversation and keep coming back to that conversation, because I want to show up. I want to show up in a way that's authentic, that's ethical, that's moral, all those words. And I know they're judgment-based, but that's my judgment. It's my business. And I want to make sure that they're aligned and true to me so that everybody gets that same experience. So they know when they come to me that I'm trusted, that they can tell me things and I can share information, and it's in a trusted, safe space. That's what coaching is. That's what sharing information's about. It's not just about saying, hey, here's everything I know. Now go do what you want with it or go be whatever. It's actually about creating a connection and an exchange of wisdom and value. And that's important to me. Now, that's my judgment. That's my view. But clients know when I don't do that. And I know when I don't do that, when I turn up in that transactional way of, which you've done occasionally, you turn up and you leave the meeting going, oh my God, who was I in that meeting? What just happened? I went to an event and what just happened? I was a whole other person that just didn't align. And that's when you don't get that conversion. That's when you don't get that connection, because you're just not really turning up as you. And
it's happened to me many times.
And you can't sustain that though, can you? If you're trying to play in someone else's skin, you just can't sustain it. And at some point it comes back and bites you on the butt and says, no, this is not your space.
I've left sometimes, sat in the car afterwards, taken a big deep breath and go, who was that in there? Who the hell was that? Yeah.
Because we're trying to show up for something else. We're trying to show up as somebody else, doing somebody else, because for some reason we just decide, oh, I want to look like that. I want to be that person. And you're like, why? I'm really happy who I am. Why am I trying to do something else and take from others? I love that analogy. Put the blinkers on, stay in your lane and show up and do what you need to do. And everyone else around can do whatever, but I need to do that to be certain and confident, so that, when you have that conversation with your family in 60 years' time, when you're sitting at home on your rocking chair, looking out over your deck going, yeah, I did things the right way. That's important to me. And that's the way I live everything.
That's exactly what happened to me with that product-based business too, when I knew I needed to grow and scale it quickly, and I couldn't get the sowers going on for me here. Like, we were just going through too many sowers, there would be issues, blah, blah, blah. So I knew I had to go into mass producing, but I also couldn't do it comfortably moving off to China or sweatshops or anything like that. So I had that long, slow road of finding out about fair trade, and it just ended up being such an amazing thing for me to do. And it sat right with me. Again, my accountant went, what are you doing? You need to be mass producing in China. It's like, that doesn't feel right for me though. No. So doing what is the right thing for you, and I'm not saying that's a rock thing, it just wasn't right for me. So coming up with
you, that's the best thing, isn't it? Right for you.
Right for you, absolutely. So making sure that, and so the other thing was, I didn't want to be copying what others were doing with products that were the right thing. I needed to find manufacturers that would work with my own unique designs, and then off we go and grow from there. So it was a very amazing and very exciting journey to go on. It did not make me then go and try and, I didn't feel guilt at night around copying. I didn't feel guilt at night around somebody getting paid appalling money, sleeping beside their sewing machine, and not making a fair wage from me profiting from it. It's an interesting thing. So whether it's product-based, service-based, et cetera, whatever it is, finding what your values are and then going forward with intention to make sure you're absolutely nailing it so that you can sleep well at night. And the thing to remember is there's enough people out there for everybody. There's enough clients, there's enough customers. We don't need to be just jumping in on other people's, what's the word, wheelhouse. There you go.
Well, I think it's a really good, and that's that piece, isn't it? It's the abundance mindset that comes to that intention. Is my intention to try and take everything, and taking everything comes honestly from a scarcity mindset or a feeling of lack somewhere in your space, whether you realize it or are consciously aware of it or not. Whereas that idea of saying there's enough space around the wheel. In fact, if we all grow together, the wheel will get bigger because we approach things in a slightly different way. We do things a little bit differently. And there's enough people who to, there's someone over here doing this, which is why when you look at things like Nike and Reebok and Adidas and all the big sports brands, it's the one that I often look at, they all produce running shoes essentially. And they're all competing in the same market technically. But in actual fact, they all have a different value proposition and a different way of meeting the needs of their clients. Some of it's a brand connection, some of it's a cultural connection of that kind of identity piece, some of it's actually around performance, but they know that they're not actually competing directly against Adidas. They're actually, or Nike or whoever it is, they're actually just going in, this is the shoe we're going to produce, this is how it's going to look, and we know we're going to meet our market's needs because this is our market niche, and they will sway because there's always those edges that will move between one or the other. Michael's a great example. He's a mad fan of Jordan 1s and has copious numbers of pairs and only wears Jordan shorts with a Jordan shoe. Like, will not wear Adidas and Nike shoes. Has to be Nike and Nike or Adidas and Adidas. And then he has his Yeezys, and he has his Yeezy shirts that he wears with his Yeezys because, again, he has to be that's the way that he works.
Love it.
I know, it's like crazy. But they're not competing with each other. They're just different purposes. And I think we forget that in business, that we sometimes think, oh, no, I've got to take the market from somebody else. I've got to take somebody else's clients. I've got to be better than somebody else in order to win my race. But actually, just run your own space, do what you need to do, because ultimately you're all going to hit the finishing line, and the finishing line for each of us is all different. It doesn't matter at the end of the day.
Absolutely. So in Bangalore, we're a tiny little village, but weirdly we have like 5 different hair salons.
I noticed that when I Googled one day.
A barber as well. It's like, what's going on with that? But interestingly enough, I've never been to the other 4. I've always been to the same one, except when she then moved away for a few years. I had to go elsewhere, which was a fabulous experience also. But then she came back and I went back because that's where my loyalties lay. And that's it though. But I do believe there's enough for everybody. That's the important thing, is that those people aren't hating on each other. They're just abundant mindset around it. Like, this is fine. There's enough for all of us. But do you know, having a listen today is Kate Wolf, who's been a dear friend of mine since we were teenagers. And she was my original hairdresser in New Zealand. So she's listening in from New Zealand. But as soon as I saw that she was here today, I was like, oh my God, my hair. I haven't really done my hair today. It's not looking like a good. So sorry, Kate. Sorry. Shame on me. Shame on me.
I've got to love the way that our brain thinks about things.
I know. And so there I was in the whole world of Bangalore hairdressers. And, we can have more than one person do something, but we don't need to go out and be trying to find customers. We're like, no. So I've heard a scenario recently where somebody was saying, actually, I do it a whole lot better than she does it, so come to me. Instead of that actually making that person go, oh, okay, I'm definitely going to go in that direction. Instead, she was like, what kind of a person are you if you're actually going to do that? That's a horrible thing to do. So actually what that just did was tell me more about you as a person rather than your skills at cutting hair.
Yeah. Oh, and I've seen so many hairdressers do that. It's funny. And maybe this is the industry, I don't know, which is a bit sad, but there is that idea of competition with some people to say, you have to come here because of, oh, I can't believe you went there, or, go there. And then when you don't like what you do, come back to us, kind of that mentality, as opposed to be like, cool, go hang out there. If you need an appointment, come back when you're ready. It's all good. And I think that's where you and I, the way we coach Know You Show Up, is we know there's lots of other coaches. We know there's lots of other people doing similar things. You and I have talked, we've had sales coaches ourselves. I've run as, I used to be a sales manager. We all have different skills, but I'm not taking that idea and saying, oh, well, I'll come and take these people that I met into my program because I can do it better. I just do it differently, and I do things differently. And you do things differently to other digital marketing coaches. And that's what makes us us. And that's what attracts the clients to us versus other people. And that's okay. And I'm about, like you, let's make the pie bigger and let's all share the pie, because, the pie doesn't have to be a single size. We can keep making it bigger, and we keep growing, and we build that community of collaboration and, participation, because that's what actually creates, ultimately abundance and gives us the goal that we want.
Absolutely. So I think, Jenni, then if I was to leave you with a final top tip of the day around that, it would be stay in your lane, be intentional to your core values and your core belief, and have an abundance mindset. What about you?
I think I'm going to go back to my quote that you reminded me that I said at the start is when you set your intention about what you want the outcome to be, it changes the way that you deliver the work. So be really clear about what it is you're trying to achieve from a conversation and action, the way you show up, and then look at how your delivery aligns to that outcome.
I love it. I love it, Jenni. Thank you so much. It was so good to talk with you today.
And where can people find you, Kylie?
Hellomedia.team. We have coaching programs that go from group coaching right the way through to etc. And once you are a client, then we can also work with you on your social media management. What about you, Jenni? How do people get in touch with you and how do you help people?
So I'm a business coach and I focus on providing clarity, structure and processes for small to medium enterprises. So generally 0 to 5 years to help you grow and untangle the mess of business. And we combine, we do that uncomplify piece, don't we, Kylie? You do it from digital marketing. I do it from a business structure and strategy perspective. Best way to connect with me is through Instagram and Facebook at Elephant in the Room AU. So you can send me a message through there. We've got a link tree that has all the links you can find on the Instagram. So at Elephant in the Room AU.
Awesome. And for next week's topic, Jenni, have you got anything in mind?
I've been thinking a lot about business structure and how we grow our business. In fact, so we're talking, I know you and I talked earlier in the year about the different types of businesses, and there's a couple of grants coming up here in Queensland, and I know the government's got some COVID relief grants, and I thought it would be a really good opportunity to say, how can we take advantage of some of the things that are in the market at the moment to help us grow our business or grow our awareness or, our visibility online using some of these grants and other tools that are available.
I think that's a great idea. In the Hello Media Facebook group, there's a post in there that I just keep adding to with what grants are coming in from Victoria, what from New South Wales, and that reminds me I need to add those new Queensland ones in there. So that's a great topic for next week. I look forward to doing that with you, Jenni. So I'll see you 9:15 next Friday, same place, same time for bite-sized conversations.
Look forward to it, Kylie. Thanks so much for today and have an amazing intentional day.
Thank you. And you too. Thanks everyone for joining us. Bye.